Please switch off your mobile phone and camera. നിങ്ങളുടെ മൊബൈൽ ഫോൺ, ക്യാമറ തുടങ്ങിയവ ഓഫ് ചെയ്യുക. പ്രദർശന സമയത്ത് യാതൊരു വിധത്തിലുള്ള ലൈറ്റുകളും പ്രകാശിപ്പിക്കുവാൻ പാടുള്ളതല്ല.
And at last, here we are. The moon mapping session at Calicut Planetarium is in progress. Did you see him? Shajiv is very interested in this aspect of astronomy. Let's listen to what he's saying.
Dear friends, we are observing the surface features on the lunar surface. This is the visible disk of the moon. There are highlands, dark areas called mareas, craters. There, that is Tycho, a ray crater. Then Kepler and Copernicus craters are there. Don't miss to see that dark areas there. It's Mare Triangulitis, and there is Mare Imbrium. We should know the name and location of all the important craters and mareas in the lunar surface. Then the lunar observation would be more interesting. A good activity for astronomy enthusiasts.
Moon, our nearest celestial neighbor, never failed to fascinate human mind, who may be a poet, a sculptor, an artist, an astronomer, a scientist. Let's hear a few lines from a song of our regional language, describing the enchanting beauty of the reflection of moonlight on the waters of Kallai River at Kozhikode.
പതിനാലാം രാവുദിച്ചതു മാനത്തോ കല്ലായി കടവത്തോ പനിനീരിൻ പൂവിരിഞ്ഞതു മുറ്റത്തോ കണ്ണാടി കവിളത്തോ.
But we Indians, as a country, are also poised for the most technologically advanced and scientifically interesting studies of the moon. Yes, India's Chandrayaan-1, an orbiter mission for the moon, a mission that demonstrates India's scientific and technical capabilities in exploration of celestial neighbors and beyond. A mission that is likely to fill in a lot of gaps in the understanding of our nearest celestial neighbor, the moon. After thousands of years of naked eye observations, 400 years of telescopic observations, 100 odd years of astrophysical observations with spectroscopes, and a half century of spacecraft ventures towards our nearest celestial neighbor, what is it that we do not know about this beautiful changing beacon of the night? A beacon that beamed its benign presence for the inhabitants of the earth from a time before any such inhabitants existed. It is interesting to learn that a ray of light takes only 1.28 seconds to travel to us from the moon. The extraordinary brilliance of moonlight dominates the sky, and we see few stars in a moon-dominated night. But when moon is absent, the millions of pinpoints of light that fill this inverted bowl above our heads are more prominent in the absence of the bright full moon. An apparent infinity of stars and some finite patterns they make in the sky. Perhaps we are already familiar with some of these. This group of stars with its beautifully distinctive shape is the constellation of Orion. Our ancients imagined a hunter in this group of stars. These three stars in a close grouping and in an unusual straight line make up the belt of the hunter. Two stars here represent his shoulders and these two stars represent his legs. The hunter is closely followed by Canis Major, the great dog in the sky. Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, is the jewel round the neck of the dog. Procyon is in the constellation of Canis Minor, the little dog. Canis Major and Canis Minor are two constellations in the skies representing watchdogs in Greek mythology. These two twin stars are Castor and Pollux, part of the zodiacal constellation of Gemini. Moving northwards, we see this W or M-shaped group of stars forming the constellation of Cassiopeia. There are two triangles here, bisecting the wider of the two and extending the bisector in the sky, brings us to the pole star, a very special star in the sky. As the night advances, all stars are seen to rise and set while the pole star remains stationary in its location. For thousands of years, the moon and its changing shape in the sky were closely observed with respect to the background stars. The 12 zodiacal constellations defined by all cultures. If you watch the position of moon carefully for a few hours on any night, you will find that it moves eastward with respect to the stars in the background. Every hour it moves by about its diameter, and in 24 hours it shifts by 13.2 degrees. This shift causes the moon to rise every next day late by 53 minutes. To mark the position of moon in the sky, ancient Indians devised 27 nakshatras or asterisms of the lunar mansion. Stars falling near moon's path were used as signposts to represent these divisions in the sky. Their names are Ashwini, Bharani, Kartika, Rohini, and so on up to Revati. The changing shape of the moon or phases was found to be related to its position with respect to the sun. As the moon moves round the earth, its phase changes continuously. On a particular night, in every phase cycle, moon totally disappears from the sky. This phase is called the new moon or Amavasya. After 1 or 2 nights, it appears as a thin crescent. Then every night, it grows or waxes until it attains full moon phase or Purnima. Thereafter, the moon gradually decreases or wanes until it becomes new moon once again. Relating interesting facts are, when it is full moon, if the moon is high in the sky, as appears to have been the case here, the time would be close to midnight. These phases of the moon repeat themselves again and again. Quite naturally, they form the basis of calendars and timekeeping in many civilizations. The Indian calendar, for instance, is lunisolar. It depends on the position of the sun as well as the moon against the background of the zodiacal constellations. Some good observation and inferences. When it's half moon and it is midnight, the moon is either just rising, it is a waning half moon, or is just setting, it is a waxing half moon. But why do we see the same phase of the moon always? Well, we can say that the moon has got locked to the earth. Moon takes the same time to rotate on its axis once as it takes in going around the earth, and both these periods are 27.3 days. Sometimes the moon misbehaves. On a bright full moon night, a strange shadow seemed to move across the friendly orb of the moon, darkening it gradually until, lo, we see a dull red glow on the entire face of the moon instead of the familiar brightness of a full moon night. We may try to understand it this way. The moon has a diameter of 3,475 kilometers, which makes it a little less than 1/3 the Earth's size. The sun is quite big compared to both. Compared to the moon, the sun is 400 times bigger. Interestingly, it is also 400 times further away from the Earth than the moon. The result of this strange coincidence of numbers is that both the moon and the sun appear to be of the same angular size in our sky, just about half a degree. The similarity of apparent sizes of the moon and sun gives the moon an added quality. It can sometimes completely cover the sun, creating a breathtaking spectacle of a total solar eclipse or Purna Surya Grahan. You see this from those areas of the earth that fall in the path of the moon's shadow. A solar eclipse is thus the only occasion when you can see the moon in its new moon phase as a dark disk blocking the view of the sun. Just as moon casts shadow on earth, the earth casts its shadow into space all the time. Though the earth is solid, it is surrounded by an atmosphere. The shadow cast by the earth is therefore not completely dark. Some of the sunlight gets filtered through its atmosphere and the shadow has a distinct, dull, reddish tinge. We can see a shadow only if it falls on some object. Moon is quite near the earth to qualify for this honor. On certain full moon nights, when the orbital circumstances give a perfect alignment, it gets completely submerged in the Earth's shadow. The phenomenon has been given the name lunar eclipse or Chandra Grahan. Let us also discuss the effect of a lunar eclipse on human beings, as many people talk about it. Probe a little and you will find it is based on a wrong premise. At the time of lunar eclipse, nothing happens to the earth. The earth's shadow falls on moon. So, the moon is the affected party and not the earth. For any effect of the lunar eclipse, ask the moon, "How do you feel, sir?" Unfortunately, no one lives there to answer your query. On the serious side, we live in shadows all the time. We rather enjoy shadows that our houses provide compared to the tropical sun outside. There is no difference between two shadows. They are all alike. Residing in Calicut, which is bounded on one side by the Arabian Sea, you can never miss to observe the occurrence of tides. If you were a regular visitor of Calicut Beach, you would have seen the changes in the level of water along the shores in the course of a month. If you have a high tide at your location, now it will repeat after 12 hours 26 minutes. We all know that the tides are caused largely by the gravitational attraction of moon and to some extent that of the sun. By the 1940s, well before the space age, ground-based infrared studies of the moon had revealed its surface to be a spread of fine dust. Measurements for the effective surface temperature of the moon were being made using radio observations of the moon. It was found that moon is an inhospitable place for the humans. During daytime, the temperature here rises above the boiling point of water to 123 degrees centigrade, and at night it plunges to a brittle minus 233 degrees centigrade. And then came a paradigm shift in the methods being adopted to study the moon. Observing the moon through multi-wavelength telescopes from the earth, yes, but why not also go to the moon and make some in situ measurements? Why not bring a bit of the moon back to earth? Simple, isn't it? Not so simple really. Many of the beginning ventures in this direction failed, and then the moon missions started succeeding, one after the other, each transmitting back new information